Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets potentially trading Alperen Şengün to the Milwaukee Bucks. It's something I didn't think I'd be talking about. I've talked a lot about Giannis potentially coming to the Rockets in the last I would say last week or two, and I didn't think Şengün would be a guy a name that would pop up, but it is. A report that came out about 3 hours ago. Bleacher Report and NBC Sports. Şengün may be in Giannis deal. Rockets open to trading All-Star and potential package. Bucks may be higher on Jalen Green. That is the only positive that's the only positive thing I read when I read that, because if they're higher on Jalen Green, that might save the Rockets right there. Because there is no way in hell this Houston Rockets team should trade Alperen Şengün. That would be a mistake. And it's weird for me to be talking about this because, look, we're talking about for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, so I'm not acting like Şengün is better than Giannis or the fact that he might have a better future than Giannis. I don't know. But I think you see the talent there for such a young 22-year-old that I think that I hate that. Look, I know that he's talked about in the past how it's it can get a little tiring at times when he gets compared to Nikola Jokic, but that is if he can build a 3-point shot, that is what he is like. He is a gifted passer. He's a great rebounder. He's a good scorer. He needs to work on, a little bit of, being more dominant in the paint, I believe, and maybe even also working on that 3-point shot. But I think he is talented like Nikola Jokic was. And honestly, just saying, I think that you could maybe even say that Alperen Şengün is better at 22 years old than Nikola Jokic was at 22 years old. We can just go look at it real quick. Nikola Jokic right now is doing what he's doing at 30 years old. Well, it's 2025, 2017. You can say probably the 2017-18 season. Nikola Jokic was probably 22 years old in the 2017-18 season. What did he do that year? Jokic averaged 18.5 points per game with 6 assists per game, 10.7 rebounds per game, 1 steal and a half a block per game. From three, did shoot 39%. Field goal percentage 49%. Look, I would say, the only thing that I think Nikola Jokic, has on Şengün, being at 22 years old and being in that third or fourth season, is that he was a better 3-point shooter. Jokic, that was the first season in Jokic's career where he really started to become identified as a good 3-point shooter. Şengün hasn't knocked that down yet. He in his career is a 27% 3-point shooter. I think in the playoffs in the Rockets series against the Warriors, Şengün actually made some really nice threes in that series. From three in that series, he actually shot 37.5% from three. And in that series, if you look at total wise, Şengün shot 3 for 8 from three in that series. So I think if he works on that, and also works on becoming more dominant in the paint, making more shots in the paint that he should be making. I mean, he has Nikola Jokic potential, and he's just not a guy you want to trade. And look, here's another thing I will say. What is the point of trading for Giannis if you're giving up Şengün? Because I think part of the reasons is Şengün, having Giannis on this team makes Şengün more dominant. Does he not? I think that Şengün, another thing that Jokic had on Şengün, if you compare the two at their ages of 22 years old, is Jokic was a little bit better, facilitating. Jokic had 6 assists per game in the 2017-18 season when he was 22 years old. Well, Şengün this year only averaged 5. Now, with how good of a facilitator and how good of a passer Şengün is. If Giannis is on the team, Şengün's assists are going to go up. his points might go up as well because Giannis is going to get more attention. And so, just honestly, Şengün's going to be dominant passing and scoring if he is on the same team as Giannis Antetokounmpo. And Giannis is gonna play better as well if he's next to Şengün. That is a duo that would really feed off of each other. And then you've got Amen Thompson next to those two guys. So, look, I have no problem with Jalen Green involved in the deal. Other guys too. Like I've said in the past, Tari Eason is untouchable. But I'd trade Tari Eason with Jalen Green and others in order to get Giannis. As much as I think Tari Eason is so valuable and such a great player and should not be traded, I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is probably the one player I'd be okay with the Rockets having Tari Eason in a deal for. Nobody else I think the Rockets should trade Tari Eason. There's nobody else that I think. Kevin Durant, no. If it's not, if Reed Shepard, Cam Whitmore your draft picks back and Jalen Green or Dylan Brooks isn't enough for Kevin Durant, nope, you're not getting Tari. Other teams, Tari Eason is too valuable to trade him. But for Giannis Antetokounmpo, Tari Eason, sorry, but we'll see you later. But I look at Şengün, I look at Amen Thompson, I look at Jabari Smith Jr. even. Absolutely not on those three guys right there. Because I think Jabari Smith Jr. is a guy that would really take advantage of Giannis being on the same team. Because Jabari, you put him in the lineup next to being next to Şengün and Giannis, he's playing more at the 3. That's just assuming Amen Thompson's off the floor or Fred's off the floor. Let's say Amen Thompson's not in the lineup. He's sitting, he's resting, and Jabari's playing with Giannis and Adams. Or sorry, Giannis and Şengün. Or let's just say in the world where maybe Brooks is off. And Amen and Fred are out there with Jabari, Giannis, and Şengün. Or just throw out this one last one. Maybe Fred is resting and Men's at the 1 and Dylan's is at the 2 and Jabari's at the 3. If Giannis comes to Houston and Şengün's out there and Jabari stays, in Houston, Jabari would take advantage of that. Jabari would, I think, maybe potentially get more open shots from 3. Giannis and Şengün would both be looking for that. Giannis is it's really underrated how much of a good passer Giannis is in finding shots for open players. Jabari Smith Jr. is a guy who loves to sit in the corner, and Giannis is a guy who loves as when he's driving, if you've got 2 or 3 guys on Giannis, if Jabari gets open in that corner where he's comfortable and Giannis sees him, Giannis is going to kick that ball to Jabari Smith Jr. Jabari Smith Jr. would take advantage of Giannis being in Houston. So he's not a guy. He's a guy that you can't have involved in the deal. So I look at Bari, I look at Şengün, and I look at Amen Thompson, and you cannot have those 3 guys involved in the deal. Jalen Green, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepard. If you want those guys, take them. And it's nothing. Look, as much as I'm pissed at Jalen Green's playoff performance, as much as I was frustrated with that, I like Jalen. I think Jalen still has potential. But we're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo here, the 2-time MVP, the guy that would have an MVP this year if it wasn't for Jokic and Shea's greatness. And then, look, you've got Reed Shepard. I love the kid. I think he's got so much, potential. Same thing with Cam. Same thing with Tari, but we're talking about Giannis here. But for Alperen Şengün, with the future he has, at 22 years old, averaging 19, 10, and 5, and continue to be better, and you just know there's only really 2 things he needs to work on with his game. Last offseason was about, Alpine needs to get better at defense. I think we saw that this year with him. This year, it needs to be 3-point shooting and working on his shot. When I say work on his shot, some of these easy shots that he makes, that he needs to make, shots you see Nikola Jokic make or other dominant guys make, he misses sometimes, and you need to see that. You need to see those shots start falling in, those easy floaters or those easy layups that might not be that much contested for a guy like Şengün. So you need to see him work on some things. Sure, he's not fully there yet. But this team would be dumb if they traded him. And even if it's for Giannis, Because I don't think it's worth Giannis coming to Houston if there's no Şengün. I think you look at guys like Şengün and Jabari, and they're gonna be what makes Giannis Antetokounmpo coming to Houston. It's gonna make the team be more built to potentially win a championship. If you trade Şengün, I don't know if they are built to win a championship. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a no-brainer to me that you do not have Şengün in a deal. Like I said, Jalen, Tari, who I pretty much have as untouchable, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, draft picks. The Bucks can have whatever they want as long as it's not a Min Jabari or Şengün, or even Fred for that instance as well. I think Fred's very valuable to this team as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and peace out. Go Rockets.